So I'm joined today by my very special guests, Matt and Chris from Property Video Solutions. How are you both?
Wonderful. It's
Excellent.
Monday. We like Mondays.
Excellent.
We're always in the
Excellent.
studio. It's always fun, busy. Watkins not with us today, but it's a good day.
So I've nicked his shirt. So.
Yeah, well, you're wearing the Watkin standard check.
The Watkin check.
And that's a t-shirt for some reason. But we're going to try and get through this together, guys.
Move past it.
Guys, I'm really interested in a couple of talking about a couple of collaborations you've got going on at the moment, because I think that there are several suppliers out there that produce some fantastic, outstanding work. They've been providing it to agents in a set format, and it's up to the agents to decide how they deploy it. And so one of the suppliers is Dataloft. They're famous for their infographics, their data sets, and so on, and it is extremely timely. It's got some great statistics about local market. Sometimes they produce some great infographics on the news as well, but to simply sort of post them, you can do that. It's easy. It's all set up to do that. Is great, but what we know is that video is more engaging than a still image, and
Sure.
You sprinkled some magic into the mix. You've made those Dataloft reports come alive. So I'm going to hand over to you on this.
We've done a bit of animated work with Dataloft. So,
well, to start with, it was a Dataloft customer, Martin & Co. franchisee, that said, could you do something like this?
Yeah.
So we did it in our own hand, didn't use many Dataloft assets. And we were down at the Guild Fine and Country gig, weren't we? And Rory and Sandra were saying, why did you design this? And we said, oh, you know, we've got one of your customers, joint customers. They said, we love it, and it's something we've been thinking of, but could you reproduce one with our assets, our branding, our own hand? And we were like, leave it with us, we have a nick.
And the great thing about animated content is because it's highly visual, the engagement is great. On social media, the engagement stat is that animated content engages with a viewer within 0.2 of a second. So because it's bright, it's colourful, it has that sort of lean back to childhood and cartoons on a Saturday morning, you know, it does have that sort of super fast, super quick engagement. So it works really, really well. And obviously for stats that are often a bit more, not boring, because actually, if you're in the market and you're interested in the statistical analysis of your market, then they're very pertinent and also quite interesting. But what they do is they just bring those statistics to life a bit, you know, and give someone watching, you know, multiple stats, just something that's ever changing, rather than them having to sort of wade through quite heavy going statistics in some cases. Yeah,
and more importantly is we are a supplier to the industry, and when we were off camera, we were talking about our values. We want to do more for the industry. We don't overcharge, we don't think. We run fair pricing system, but we want to constantly, with, you know, the realms of video, but like help agents more. And if this can help win them either a local listing or cement them as the local expert, I know it's a well bandied about term, but video can help with that.
You've for a long time done that. In fact, I can remember during the early days of the pandemic when most of us were panicking about, oh, how do we do video tours? We never knew what a video tour was, but you really sort of stepped in at that stage. I remember you gave it away, and I will refer to it as giving away. You gave away your knowledge and expertise for free to help people. You taught them how to sort of do that nice, gentle pan across. And if you didn't have high-tech equipment, you could literally just do it using your phone. You saved a lot of it. You saved me, I've got to tell you, because my first video tours were all put together using your guidance. And
they were amazing.
And they are, but well, it's all history now, because now we accept that video is part and parcel of something we need to be folding into our business mix the whole time. Now, if you went out and saw a vendor today, or a seller, as some people like to refer to them, but if you went to see your clients and you said, look, we're going to put your house on the market, and you weren't offering them a video tour, they would think something's amiss. We've now come to sort of expect it as standard. So it's interesting how things evolve. And on that note, we discussed earlier, Chris, off camera about some training that you were putting together, because one of the things that we keep hitting a brick wall with sometimes is the video point, because we all know in our heart of hearts as agents, it's well documented that I'm very shy, but most agents, as affable as they are, when you say to them, listen, pal, you've got to do what you've just done in front of a camera, they suddenly become this sort of stuttering, spluttering version of themselves, and they think they can't do it. And part of that is you need that accountability of somebody to gently sort of just encourage you to do it and to get that consistency in the mix. So you've been a mentor, and you've trained other people, and you're now offering this consultancy and training more widely, aren't you?
So it's more of a sort of organic sort of thing, you know, over the course of the last 5 years, or 6 years actually, because we worked with Chris Watkin, Matt and I, doing initial training for agents before video was a big thing in industry in 2016. We did a tour of the UK, and then subsequently we've run training here. We've done, you know, I run training for Belvoir nationally, you know, as part of their induction process. I speak on stage for Property Mark. You know, I've sort of spoken in a lot of forums, you know, locally in terms of business about the value of video marketing and the value of visual marketing in terms of telling the story of your brand. And so I was just, do some mental,
light bulb moment.
Yeah, sort of a light bulb moment, really, just sort of pulling all of that together and all of that information together and thinking, actually, if there were 8 to 10 really committed agents who wanted someone to work with them on a one-to-one basis to improve what they do now, analyze what they've already done, think about how they could improve what that content looks like, and also think about strategy for going forward, then could I offer that as service into industry? And yeah, look, we've given away hundreds of hours of time during the COVID pandemic. You know, we're on the phone and we're available to people whenever they ring. You know, we give people advice and support, and I speak, you know, at conferences and on stage, and we must have engaged with thousands of agents across the industry. But I think that accountability and having someone who's going to call you every month and have a conversation with you for an hour, and analyze in detail what you've been doing in terms of your video marketing and where that stuff's been going and what that's been tracking like, and how it could be improved, and what the content of that is, you know, and what you can be telling your clients. I think that would be hugely powerful. And I think I don't want to do loads. I just think that we could help a few agents do something really powerful.
I think being held to account is part and parcel of that. You know, I can't tell you how many times I've seen other agents turn up to inspirational training days, and they're sat there scribbling away their notes, and they've got all these notes, and the head's always down. I go, oh, that's another thing, and it's amazing. And we all sat next to some kid in school who was like that, right? But you when you walk away from there, that initial inspiration that you get from that day of seeing the trainer face to face, you're lucky if it'll last the rest of the week, and you're back into sort of bad habits after that. But knowing that you've got somebody that is going to be following up with you, is going to be asking, okay, we spoke last time, we set a couple of goals, we decided you were going to go and do X, Y, and Z. How did that go? Let's see how that went and how we can improve things and what we've learned. And then you'll set another goal to sort of go forward. And I think knowing that you're going to be calling me puts me under pressure to deliver that, because you don't want to let anybody down. But it's also a way of getting that inspiration that you get from that one day, but you are sprinkling a bit of that into your diary every single month, so that you're not just running out of steam after a week. It's going to last a lifetime, hopefully.
I hope so. And I think crucially, you know, Matt and I have worked in the industry, properly in it, you know, for 5 years. You know, we've built a really good network of clients and friends and colleagues in the industry that can vouch for what we do, how we do it, you know, the quality of what we deliver to client. And I think that if we can give someone that verve and that interest and the confidence and enthusiasm to go and put themselves firmly in their marketplace, then I think that's a value, and I would like to do that, you know, to help people grow, you know, and and help people's businesses where they might be sort of hit a bit of a stumbling block, or they don't really know where to go with it, or how they can improve, or how they can do more.
Especially if you're an independent, and let's face it, there's tens of thousands of them, and they often don't have that support. And I guess it's not support because you're paying for it, but it sort of is. It's out there if you need it. And you know, like you said, David, you come back from, you know, super inspiring course, and everything, all the daily decisions fall on you, and you're back into old habits, old routines. Oh, I haven't got time to do that video. We get it. And like the culpability is, Chris is not going to tell you off when he rings you on that 1 hour a month. It'll just be, okay, let's look at how we can do that.
It's support and guidance, and actually saying, look, you know, if you do this, it would be beneficial. Why don't you try doing X? Why don't you try doing Y? You know, we've worked with hundreds of agents over the course of the last 5 years. This has been good for them. This could be good for you. This has been successful. Why don't you try this? And also looking at delivery method, you know, looking at as bare bones as actually looking at where are you putting your content? You know, are you leveraging as many channels as you can? You know, is that content right for that channel? You know, are you putting things in the wrong places where actually you'd see a better return on that time if you put it elsewhere? And also thinking about, if you're making a big piece of content, how can you strip and how can you sweat that asset? You know, how can you take one bit of content and make it many pieces, you know, and start thinking more seriously about, you know, stripping back pillar content into smaller chunks, and leveraging that. And also time management, because video, you know, can, you know, if you sort of, oh my God, I need to make video for my business, like, how am I going to do that? So time consuming. You know, we've got tips and, you know, a bit of tips and advice on how you can consolidate that, you know, make that more manageable, more. There's a, you know, it's how do you eat an elephant? You know, there's that old adage, isn't there? You know, you know, just,
one mouthful at a time. Exactly.
Just little bits.
Super, you know? Important. Super important. Invaluable stuff. So who would be the? I mean, because Matt touched on that there before. He sort of mentioned independence, and for what it's worth, and don't let the big corporate boys hear this, but I actually think that independence, if anybody can make the most out of a video, it's them. It gives them that leverage because very often they have got personal brand. They've got personalities that they can pour into it, where corporates have got to be a little bit more careful about corporate branding, etc.
They've also got that autonomy, you know, and I've worked in big organizations. I worked in government for a number of years, and everything is process and sign off and multiple quotes of hits. And if you want to try something new, you have to, you know, dip test it, business case it, all that other sort of stuff. You know, independent agents, self-employed agents, they're a bit more agile. You know, you can make a decision today and have it in and put it in tomorrow. You know, we're the same. You know, our business, you know, is a good business. You know, we employ people. You know, we have all these things, these methods. You know, but we said, right, we want to put our values on the wall, and within an hour it was done. You know, and I think that's the speed of delivery that you can achieve if you have that level of autonomy. That, you know,
it's agility, isn't it? It gives you that
massive, you know, it's the old tanker tugboats.
Okay, cool. So, but going back to that, then, when we were talking about sort of independence versus corporates, if you had to choose the sort of agent that would benefit the most from the sort of training that you're able to offer, and that sort of gentle reassurance and mentoring that you offer, what do they look like?
I'd say perfect avatar was either newish startup or slightly older business owner that thinks they've missed the boat on all this.
I mean, I think one of my favorite people in the industry, bar none, is one of our clients, is a guy called Vaughan Schofield, and he's got a Belvoir franchise, so he isn't an independent. Well, he is loosely, he's in a franchise owner,
but he's got a bit more.
I mean, he's a bit older. I mean, I'd say he might be just over 40. He's not. I think he might be nearly 60.
Looks good for it,
but he's always looking at how he can change and tweak and revolutionize, and I think he's just so motivated. He's so passionate about his clients. He's passionate about his town, his community, and you know, he's like my avatar for a perfect client. He really cares about his place. He cares about his business. He cares about his team. I think that's the sort of person. If I could have 10 Vaughns in the world, I mean, it would be a scary place, but he's a wonderful person. But again, Sean and Martin and Co in Leamington Spa's amazing. Tim Lovett, who's got he's got Lovett's in St Neots, is amazing. Proactive, community-minded, solid estate and letting agents who just want to make a real fist of it, you know, grow their business, thinking long term. They're not thinking about tomorrow, they're thinking about next year, the year after that, you know, building a business for the long term, not for today, you know. And I think that's a real
investing in that future, isn't it?
Investing in that growth, investing in that future, you know, because we know from experience that businesses who've adopted more visual content into their business have seen significant increases in income. It's significant 100%. Increases in turnover, purely because they are more visible, and therefore people know where to go to find them. You know?
Yeah. Absolutely fabulous. So going back to your collaborations that you've got there, we've obviously looked at the Dataloft collab, because by now Jodie would have edited in a lovely little version of that video that you showed me earlier. But it's great, and it works really well. That's being offered to existing Dataloft Inform customers as an add-on.
Yeah,
as an add-on, I might say as well. Yeah.
It's a 100 English pounds add-on.
Yeah, 100 quid.
100 quid, and it's there. They don't need to think about it. It's there for them every month, and they can use.
It was every quarter, because the stats don't change dramatically enough. So we actually did test the market. We were going to do it monthly, but actually it made more sense to be quarterly. So they can buy it every quarter, or they can buy a year's worth and have one every quarter. All they need to do is just provide us with a logo.
Yeah,
and their area, obviously, because the stats will be
tailored to.
Any informed customers that are already, you know, watching this will know that sometimes the percentage of increase in average property price maybe goes up by 0.1% every other month, or sometimes it jumps by 5%. So yeah, we did look at it doing it monthly, but there's sort of not necessarily a massive change in the ONS data and all the other sort of land registry bits and bobs that they, I mean, to be fair, Dataloft make sense of the noise. I know that's your strapline, but there's so much data out there.
They do. I think what they do is they take that data and they work out. What I love about it is that it's hard to find. I mean, at the moment, this is a classic example. If I wanted data that I could relate to my clients right now in the middle of a 2-week news cycle, which is just us lumbering from one political disaster to the next, but it has an effect on people's confidence. So if I were to take stats and tell people about the market, it's sometimes difficult to get that positive slant on it, but Dataloft somehow always managed to see both the sunny side, but they are also picking out bits and pieces that do remain constant. So I'm going to give you a great example. We're all bitching about the cost of living crisis, but Dataloft are telling us about how important, therefore, energy efficient homes are to buyers, and they'll tell you what percentage. They'll tell you, they've got a lovely little infographic that popped up a couple of weeks ago about the sort of appliances you can buy and the sort of things that you can do in order to bring down your energy consumption. Now that is helpful data, it's helpful information that I as an agent can now pass on to members of the public. And I think that is because sometimes we get swamped and we're wearing so many hats. I'm trying to sell houses, but I'm also having to analyze the news and pick out the positive bits. I mean, come on. It's
That's a short
it's
job.
very hard. Yeah,
Short job
easy,
right now.
easy job. Yeah, but no, it's great, and I think it'd be really valuable to their client base, and I think for a reasonably low fee, it will just add a little bit of colour, a little bit of spice to people's channels, and again, be something that's of huge value to people. And that's all we ever try and do, just offer just real value for our client. You know?
Yeah, we're not soothsayers, but we've been making video for 10, 15 years, maybe longer in some cases.
No,
but
I wasn't that old. I was only 20 then.
They've been making video for so long, the frame rate was different.
Yeah.
And it was all,
mate, it was all about
natural film, yeah. But we've seen this behemoth that is video coming. Like me, Chris and I, and another Chris Watkin, as people might know, went for a burger in London somewhere about 5-6 years ago. We interviewed Jerome Hopper. Jerome, sorry.
Yeah.
And
in Clapham.
Yeah, in Clapham. So yeah, and I said to Chris, it still is photographer, but I said photos will never die. Still images will never die, but this thing called video is not stopping. And I don't care who you are, like for the next 10 years, video is going to be so vital. So, and it's interesting to see other people catch up with our way of thinking, or what we've been seeing and sort of analysing.
As ever, it is the kids as our future, if you like, that dictate to us what's important. So we can cling on to a still image only policy all we like, but if the fact is, if your audience are on TikTok, you've got to get on TikTok. If your audience are doing, and what you know is when it works, everybody starts to adopt it. So if you look at Facebook and Instagram and Reels now, even on YouTube, shorter content, we know short video content that can just flow as people are swiping and scrolling. That's what they want, and I think agents have got to get to it. It's now not you could do that and it'll help. It's a recipe for success.
There's talk at the minute on mainly on LinkedIn and stuff, but like about people sort of pulling back on their marketing spend. Now, I don't care which marketeer you read from, whether it's online or in a book, like their number one tip, and like I hope people listen to this because it doesn't have to be expensive. Their number one tip is to stay present. And like by doing, your own video content, which we'd say is probably cost you your time and that's it, but you're staying in front of your audience. Whereas, Mr. and Mrs. Jones's agency that went, do you know what, we're going to pull our video marketing for the next 6 months because times are tough. People will forget about you. I'm sorry, but people forget about you. There was a great line on the news during before our most recent Prime Minister got in, Mrs. Truss. There was a little bit on the news from their chief political editor, and he said to the camera, or to the Hugh Edwards in the studio, but he said, I think it was 4 out of the 5 people who were up for being next Prime Minister. He said, if you got on a bus anywhere in the country, or they got on a bus anywhere in the country, 4 of those 5 guys you would not recognise from Adam or your next door neighbour or whatever. And we started thinking, why wouldn't they get recognised? It's because they haven't been on video or on telly enough. Whereas Rishi Sunak, or Boris jumps on the bus next to you. And
don't talk about Boris and buses.
Okay, but it's a thing. Like there's a reason Rishi is now probably in the Premier top spot at the minute. It's because people know him. People have seen him. Okay. Most people like him apart from that weird tax dodgy thing, and most people trust him apart from that weird tax dodgy thing, which he's now corrected. But like, you say, Morden, we're like, yeah, I know her because I watch Newsnight sometimes. But I'm sorry, but Joe
that's
Public
fascinating. Lastly, you are famous within the industry. Everybody knows you. Such a multitude of people work with you. You've helped organizations, you've helped individuals, you're helping companies, but you are that well known because you love collaborating. You famously play really, really well with others. Another that we need to talk about is Akaboom. What have you been doing with them?
Well, we spoke about this probably it was pre-COVID at the Northwood gig. Chris and I and Susanna, who's Mavs, who's famous in the industry as well, and Brian, who runs Akaboom, and they were like, we should do something video-y because we do visuals, and we've got all the stats to back up
all their presentation stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy how good that product is at winning instructions. And Anyway, so we bumped into Susanna and Brian again at the AE Masters a couple of weeks ago. Brian was like, we should do something with that. Let's start that conversation again. So we're just going to be helping run with their amazing trainer, Anne Ford, 3 sort of one-off half-an-hour sessions on literally just dipping your toe into the water of video. But it's linked in heavily with putting that video that you've just done, essentially a post-fail video, onto the Akaboom platform. And if anyone knows how to use the Akaboom platform, super powerful, and it's just been turbocharged, I think, with the use of video. So
yeah, I think it's not, and Matt's stretching his legs with it, because I often take a sort of training lead outside of the stuff we do together. So Matt's going to run those sessions because he's as knowledgeable, if not more so, than me, and slightly better looking. So the reality, so Matt's going to deliver those sessions for Akaboom, which is nice, because they'll get a different take and a different perspective. And I think it's just another thing that we're doing. It's we're not charging for it. It's free.
Because we want agents to be better.
We just want people to do
just do
everything.
You're not already talking to Property Video Solutions. Why aren't you talking to them? They have so much to offer you, and they literally do have a solution to fit every size of agent at every stage of your business. You definitely have to be talking to them. They are helping our industry in ways that they don't earn a penny from. But if you do get the opportunity to spend 10 minutes with them, it will change things. I am sure that all their details are on kerfuffle.com. But thank you very much, gentlemen, for giving me your time today.
Thank you so much. Lovely to see you.
Cheers, David.